Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on today's CoolCare Masterclass, where we'll be looking at how CoolCare and PCS integrate on the system. Well, as always, I'm sure you're all aware, CoolCare is here to help make operating your care home easier, more efficient, and more profitable. Today, looking at something, making things easier and more efficient with how it can link in with PCS. What we'll be seeing as we go through today's session, if anyone does have any questions as I'm going through, you can use the Q&A option on Zoom. You should find a little Q&A button on your Zoom window somewhere, where you can then answer a question where a member of our team will be on hand to answer anything. And as well as that, we'll have some time at the end of the session once everything's wrapped up for you to ask any of the questions you've got after things have been done. So anything you think of as we're going through, we'll try our best to answer any questions you might have on any part of this. So, as I say, what we'll be looking at today is how CoolCare's integration with person-centered software allows you to transfer staff and resident data between the two systems and seeing how that all works, how the integration works, and a brief introduction of it all, how it gets it configured, and how to then use the integration, what data it needs in order for it to all work, essentially from sending staff and resident records from CoolCare into PCS, and how to get started with it as well. So, for those who might not be aware, PCS, person-centered software, is all about care planning. So just to explain it quickly before we dive into it. Yes, PCS is all about care planning. So it's the full details of residence care, where CoolCare is looking more at the admin side of things and looking at their billing and different things like that. PCS is focused on their care planning, the one thing that CoolCare doesn't have on there. So everything anyone would need to know about providing the right level of care for them, from the everyday to emergency, including personal details, medication, and much more. And that's PCS handles all that side of things for your residents' care. With CoolCare being all about admin, that's why we have this partnership with PCS to provide a care planning and link the two systems together with that. Essentially, the way it works is you can add staff and resident records onto CoolCare and then be able to send them to PCS with the click of a button. So we'll see it in a bit more detail. So I can briefly show you a quick look at PCS just for those who haven't seen it before. I do have a demo system on here. If I just load it up and share my screen, here's kind of what it looks like. So as I say, I'm not an expert on PCS, so I'm not going to be able to show you every little thing on here. Obviously, we don't have time for all of that, of course. But essentially, it has two main parts to it in terms of being able to add in both staff members and service users, residents on there. And as I say, these can be essentially transferred from CoolCare into PCS as a new record onto here, and that's what the link does. So you can have your staff members, which essentially turn to users on PCS, allowing them to access the system and view care planning records created from there. And then the records of your residents, service users in there, all the details and everything we need to know about them, we can find in there just by clicking into them and seeing all the information that, as I say, could be added on here. A lot that goes into it, as I say, I'm not an expert on PCS, so I can't show you every little thing on here, but you can see what stuff we can add in there, medications, residents' care, all the stuff we need to know about them, we can find in here. So that's the idea with it. And as I say, with the connection between the two, you can create records in CoolCare to send into PCS here. In terms of setting it up, there's one bit of information you would require from PCS in order to be able to connect it with CoolCare. And that is specifically, if you click your name in the top right of PCS here, you should see on the list there, I believe, My API Key. So CoolCare is linked to PCS via an API, which is what this key is used for. It'll be unique for every PCS system, which you can then take that key from PCS and you would get in touch with our support team at CoolCare, and they can then set up that connection using that key from there. That's the main thing they require. And once that's set up, then the two systems will be linked together, and from there we can, let's say, send our records from CoolCare into PCS. So how does that part work? If we go to CoolCare, I can show you. So on CoolCare here, let's just, need to log in again. It did time me out. So from CoolCare here, as I say, the main thing it does, well, let's say the only thing it does, I should say, is send staff and resident records from CoolCare that you've created into PCS, essentially meaning you don't have to duplicate data between the two systems. It sends them from one to the other. The idea is it's a one-time, one-way connection. What that means is you would set up the records in CoolCare first with all the details you need in there for them. And then with the click of a button, you can send them from CoolCare into PCS and set them up as a new record in there. So rather than having to set up the record twice or say remove any risk of data differing between the two systems, it just gets sent from one to the other, as easy as that. And it is, I say, one way in the sense that it can't be sent from PCS back to CoolCare. It's just one from CoolCare to PCS. And as it's one time in the sense that it's something you do once with the initial setup of the staff or residents, and they will then be sat in both systems. If you need to update the record, they would need to be updated in both sides. It's only a one time, I say, one-way connection. So how does it all work? So if I say I've got a new starter that I need to add to my system and get them on both sides of there, we can do it via our staff. So first thing we'll need to do with a new starter is obviously create their record in CoolCare. So if you click Insert on CoolCare here, we can create a new staff record and fill in their required details. So I'll just fill some details in here. I'm going to create a new staff member. So the required information for them in CoolCare is the same as it is in PCS, funny enough. So all the required details in here are all the stuff it would need on PCS's side. A name, date of birth, and in there, let's just put that, choose a random date in there. That will do nicely. As well as some other required details here, such as title and other stuff. That's. And then also the details of their role. So to create them in CoolCare, the default position also carries across to PCS, so that'll be required obviously by both systems. So I can pop in some information on here, filling out whatever details I need alongside a start date. There. One unique thing that's required by PCS that isn't actually required by CoolCare is an email address. So as I say, the way it works in PCS is the staff members are essentially created as a login. So that's email address is required for them. And this will be what's known as the unique identifier, which means this has to be unique for every staff member, so they can't be sharing email addresses or anything like that. And this is what makes sure that no duplicate records get created in PCS from CoolCare. So that's the main thing it'll be checking to ensure that this is actually a unique record we're adding into the system in there. So again, I'm just going to use a dummy email address in here. Doesn't matter what it's called. Let's create our email address in there. And then click next. So that's the only thing that's required by PCS that isn't actually required by CoolCare to start with. So make sure you do pop in an email address for them. And then we can go through creating our staff member in CoolCare, which is just the additional pages, which I'm not worried about in this regard. But if I save them, that then creates our new record in CoolCare. If we find them in here, Jody, who I've just created, the new starter. Once you've got the staff record created in CoolCare, you'll find there'll be a button in the top right corner to send them to PCS. And even if I hover the button, it tells me what it's going to do. Send the staff record to PCS, which will create a staff in your PCS community tab with some of the fields already filled in, i.e. the stuff we've filled in there, the name, the date of birth, the personal details, and the email address as well. Once all that's filled in, we can then click send to PCS, and there we are, they get submitted. Simple as that. It checks the email address to ensure that it is a unique record. If it's not a unique record, if the email address is already used by a record in PCS, it will not send them over, so it doesn't create any duplicates. You'd have to then update the email address if it needs correcting. But if it does work, it says there, submitted to PCS, and that's done. Unfortunately, I can't show you on the PCS side because my system, the one here, ironically, aren't actually linked together. So this is a different demo PCS to my training systems one it would use. But the idea is it creates a new record in PCS under, go back, you would find them under your staff section. And they would then be a new record in here where you can see all those details carrying across, and then see they'll be able to access PCS themselves from that. So yeah, create a new record in here, and that goes over to PCS's side of things. And in terms of residents, it's very much a similar kind of thing. So once again, if we go to our residents section in CoolCare, imagine we've had a new admission. We want to get them onto both systems so we can start obviously filling out all the details we need. Once again, click Insert at the top of CoolCare, and we can create our new resident record. So again, most of the required stuff on here is also required by PCS. So the admission dates on there, the room number, what room they'll be going into, of that. And then the personal details, again, similar kind of personal details required in both PCS and CoolCare. So a title and a name we can fill out in here. That's going to create a random name in there. And again, the main thing that's required by PCS that isn't actually required by CoolCare is the date of birth. And again, like that email address for staff members, that date of birth is one of the unique identifiers it uses. So we use the name and date of birth together to essentially recognize if the record is unique. So I need to pop in a date of birth for my resident record on here. And we'll just choose a random date on that one. That'll do nicely. And we need to fill out the rest of our personal details in here. Pop in on the right-hand side. And some additional things that are required by CoolCare, not usually required by PCS, but are required, obviously, in this side of things. As well as that, there are actually a couple of additional bits of information you can pop in on here that can fill over to PCS as well, such as their address and even such as the resident's national insurance number as well. You can pop in on that. If I can pop in an address on here just to show you. We'll go with actually, sorry, just gonna change my mind on those. Pop in an address on there, whatever it might be, and then can be saved on there. But yes, actually NHS number, which actually isn't on this page, but is on our record, and the national insurance number, they are optional in the sense that they don't really need to be added on to be shown to be sent over to PCS, but they can carry over if you do put them in. So if I save this record here, that will create our new record for our new residents. It's sort of all the details on this general page that can carry over. So I'll say the personal details, date of birth, etc. The stuff you put in there. And then if I scroll down, as I say, national insurance, NHS number, both of those can carry over alongside the resident's address, which in CoolCare you can find in the admission page as well. And again, like our new resident, like our new staff member, once those are set up, you can see there, send to PCS will then create the new record in PCS for them. And to answer a question someone has asked, it can't be done automatically. You do have to submit them to PCS using the click of the button there. It's not something that can transfer across automatically. So just any new records you set up in CoolCare, make sure that you then send that button on the top right to submit them into PCS. It's literally just a click of a button to then have them be sent over to PCS as a new record in there. Like I say, for a new resident record, they would then show up under PCS in the service users section. Again, my two systems aren't linked together in a sense, but that's where it would show up if they were. And go from that. Well, yes, it's essentially just any new records you create in CoolCare, as soon as you set them up, you have the option there to submit them to PCS as long as the right information is there. Again, for staff members, that's the important part is a email address. That's the unique identifier to make sure it is the right person and be able to not create any duplicates for you. And for residents, that's the name, full name, surname, and date of birth that it uses to recognize them and ensure they are correct, same unique individuals on there as well. But it really is as simple as that. As soon as you create the records in CoolCare, the button will be there available to send to PCS, and that can then be sent over. Sorry, just looking at a couple of questions we've got. If you have a resident on PCS and want to update CoolCare, will it double the information? So that's a good thing. It won't double up any information. When you edit a record on CoolCare, it's not going to change anything on PCS. And vice versa, if you update something on PCS, it's not going to change it on CoolCare. The link is literally just that one button there that sends it one time, and then that will be done with. So you don't have to worry about anything being changed when it shouldn't be on that. If you need to update something, you would have to do it in both systems to ensure it's correct on both sides of things. But it's not going to, like I say, update anything without expecting it to. Yes, that is the nature of our link with PCS and how that works. As I say, fairly straightforward as we can see. And that means, as I say, it just saves you having to double up on work and not meaning you have to worry about creating new records in PCS when they're already in CoolCare. You can just send them from one to the next, and that's done with. As simple as that. What's really, like I say, it is that straightforward in terms of the link and how it works. So If you are interested in linking the two systems together, if you use PCS already, the integration is free of charge. It's not anything that has to be paid for. All you have to do is get that API key out of PCS, send it to our support team and details. They can then link the two systems together, and that will then be set up for you in order to be able to send those new records in there. So if you do want more information on it, so you can get in touch with our support team and they can give you all details and the steps of setup that's required on that. And of course, PCS themselves can also obviously tell you more about PCS in there. And you can get in touch with them using their own details you can find, I'm sure, to help with that. But yes, for setting up the link itself, if you already use PCS, just get in touch with our support team and say as long as you've got that API key you can get out of PCS, then they can get a link can be set up. But really, that is all there is to it. Like I say, it really is that simple, and that's why I say it's nice and easy and quick for us on here. For anyone that does have any further questions, you can stick around. Of course, I can see there are questions coming through, and then we'll do our best to answer them. But for those interested in essentially further training on CoolCare, in case you didn't know, you may be entitled to some free of charge training as part of your CoolCare subscription. Every customer should have at least 2 30-minute free of charge training sessions available. If they've not been used up already, of course, you can contact us at training@coolcare.co.uk and we can get in touch with you and check your training and get something booked in for you on there if you need to. As for today's session, I'll say that'll be all there is to it. So thank you all for joining. Just to be aware of our next session in 2 weeks' time, we'll be looking at CoolCare and invoicing. No, that's not cash flow. I suppose invoicing is cash flow in the same sense of that. But yes, thank you all for joining for today. We will stick around and answer any more questions that you've got. I can see there's plenty coming in, and our team are helping and answering them for you. So we'll stick around, but for those who want to leave, feel free, and thank you all for joining me. And hopefully I'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time for our next masterclass. So thank you all for joining, and do have a nice day.